to have an advantage in a field, to make unique contributions, you need to have unique experiences. That makes the difference. There are a lot of people that can acquire skills, but if you have a wide range of special and unique experiences that shape your perspective, other people aren't going to have that perspective.
Spiders running around the loft. Why are we so delayed?
Cool. I like it. It's a party. We're having a party. People are late.
Well, someone should say hello to the people who are listening on the live stream.
We're gonna.
So you do that.
I'm gonna do that.
Thank
hey,
you.
people.
Thanks, Rory.
We're a little late tonight. It's my first time ever not being in the loft. I'm here in the studio that I work out of. I am quarantining, so my wife and kids can go and see her mom and husband. And so we're being extra, double, triple careful because they're going to see two elderly people. So quarantining for a week and COVID testing twice and taking zero risks. So this is the first time I haven't been in the loft on a Wednesday.
Missing you deeply, to be honest.
It's weird. Yeah, I don't like it. I'll be honest. But I'm here and I'm looking forward to talking to you and celebrating your birthday in person at the weekend.
I'm glad that Alex extended the invitation. I think we were trying to keep it tight at 6 people, but I mean, there was no one else I wanted there more than you to be there. So I'm really glad that's working out.
It was very kind of him.
Yeah.
And sort of was the only way that I could miss tonight because we were like trying to figure out if I could shuffle the girls off early so that I could come down tonight, and they weren't ready and her mom wasn't ready. So
no, I'm thrilled that you're going to be there. Means a lot.
Yeah.
Today was actually a really interesting day. Just even setting up, we were late on the setup because I had a long day. I had a little bit of a panic attack today during physical therapy, and then getting through a mix. Spider, Graham actually showed up 15 minutes before, and I was working on a mix, and Spider just did his thing where he just shows up, walked up, and was like hearing what I was doing, like, yo, what if you did, just starts commenting that we like the way we used to do. And it was really fun. So I think we got started a little late today because I was doing verb throws and delays, and Spider was like, make it a little darker, like let's add some mood there, And it's like, oh, okay, cool. So that's what we used to do. And it just felt like a 15-minute moment of old school mixing in the studio with Spider.
What about that last line, that lyric? That's important.
Yeah. Like and then the way it like tips over the edge into the horn group, into the trumpet section, flugelhorn, and just the blend of the verb just taking off into the distance is like definitely a moment that I was trying to dial in there. So it's been a wild day today.
It's also worth noting we're on episode 30.
Yeah.
Woo.
That is, speaking of Adam, I got a message from him this morning and he was like, congrats on episode 30. And I was like, it was like the first thing I saw when I woke up. I'm like, shit, 30 episodes.
Yeah.
It's really impressive.
I'm thrilled. I was trying to figure out how to talk about it. So recently Sam Harris was on Coleman Hughes' podcast for a second time. I think Sam was the first podcast that Coleman had, I think, live with a guest.
First guest recorded.
Yeah. And at the end, Sam was like, dude, keep going. It's rare that people actually continue podcasting. So 30 to me feels like that moment of, oh, wow, we're not going to stop.
Feels like the first milestone. It really does. 30.
You don't think 50? No, why 30? Why 30?
I don't even know why.
Sounds like
30,
a lot of weeks.
It's a lot of weeks. It's more than half a year.
An entire month of podcasting.
Yeah.
Every day.
I think if you're going to get the 7-year itch of podcast, you're going to get it around episode 30. It's like it's a time when, there's work to be done.
And I think we bypassed it by bringing other people into the convo. I feel like that was, we sort of saw it before it happened. We're like, we might get bored of talking to each other 30 weeks in a row. And then we brought some people in to spice it up and figured out what we were doing there. And then we were like even more excited to do it. But it does speak to switching up your routine a little bit to kind of remember the grass isn't always greener.
Don't know
per
what
se.
you've got till it's gone.
There you go.
I think like most of this month will probably be us talking.
Yeah.
There's a chance the last week of the month we'll have a guest. All depends on forms and approvals and stuff of that nature. It's
hard to get the president on.
Yeah, I know.
Any one of them. We have a panel of presidents.
Well, here we are.
Here we are. So we got your 35th birthday. We got the 30th episode. And
I'm not feeling really celebratory, to be real with you. Like I would love to hear some. I really want it to be roasted today, but I don't know.
Well,
the energy seems kind of low, but I was hoping for a little bit of a roast.
I got something for you.
You got something? Oh wow, really? Okay.
So,
Michael,
I got something
for everybody. You. For people that don't know, Michael J. Morgan at the table has known me for 15 plus years, the longest of any friend that I know still in Los Angeles, I would say.
Wow.
Besides Adam and you, kind of, we met at the same time. So, yeah.
He does have a few more days on me, though.
Yeah, a few more days. That.
Yeah. This is the anti-roast. This is a message from the community to you. I just sent out a message to the group that JC Dirks writes in. John taught me to find a better way, to not do what is done just for the sake of it, to buy PMCs. Laughing emoji. Grateful for John's initiative to help and elevate the community. That's all I got for you. No roast.
Man.
I'll sign off on that.
Damn.
Yeah, me too.
Cosign.
That gets to the heart of it. Inspiring folks.
Wow. Okay.
He said, but. No, just kidding. But here's what else you should know about John. No, I'm just kidding.
No, that's really thoughtful. I should comment on it. I mean, it's so unintentional, and then it became intentional. You know, I just, it's been a thing. It's been a thing in life in general. Is you hear something and you say, oh, that's cool, but could it be done this way? Like it started before YouTube. I was mixing records before YouTube, for those of you that care. I think it was Pro Tools 5.1. And I would Google terms, and I would Google like, how do you make a bass drum sound like a certain record? And then like someone would, Chris Lord-Alge would come up on a Sound on Sound or Tony Maserati or all these people, and I would do the move that they said they did, and I'd be like, I don't really like that move. Like I understand what they're doing. Oh, you're cutting that out in that area. It exposes this thing. But what if I move it up here, or what if I do it that way? And that's been the journey of my discovery the whole time. Has been like, oh, this person does it this way. Cool. Really understand why they did it that way, and then do it your own way. You got to, I was at physical therapy, like I mentioned earlier today, and the guy that's treating me was, trained under a master who is Tyler Johnson's father, Greg Johnson, and he's like, well, Greg taught me things, but I'm not going to do it like Greg fully. He passed the torch to me. I have to take it a step further. It could be these micro steps further, but he was talking about how, he tried to go to a conference, a physical therapy conference, and he wanted to get a keynote speaking position on diaphragmatic breathing, and how it was, how like if you can't breathe through, which happened to me today, in your chest, because your sternum is, what's the word? Maybe contracted or pushed in, for lack of a medical term. You have to expand through your diaphragmatic breathing. And it was just too high level, like 30, 40 years ago, or when they were trying to do this. And now everyone's talking about diaphragmatic breathing, the whole thing.
It's a whole thing.
It's like he's been on that tip for so long, just like I've kind of been anti-compression for so long in music, just kind of backing off when I use it. And these things that, people like JC are referencing are just things that I kept trying, it didn't work. It's like it didn't do the thing that I was trying to feel from the record. So I'm glad it's translating as I come out of my little shell and try to be more publicly outward in the community.
I mean, it sounds like without that kind of influence, people are trapped in a certain mindset that doesn't lead them where they're trying to go. Like they're not advancing their technique, they're not advancing their careers, they're not advancing their income, not advancing their enthusiasm and the motivation, and to have somebody with the credibility and the likability, the trust factor to explain that, like, yeah, there's a lot of sort of prevailing myths here. I think that offers people an opportunity to think outside of that box.
Yeah.
And obviously JC feels less trapped by it. And he's really just getting going. He's sort of transitioning later in his life than a lot of engineers do, which is interesting to see. And just it's sort of, I count him as lucky for sort of getting in the pool at a time like this when there's, sort of better information circulating culturally. You know what I mean, Rory?
I do. I mean, I think he's lucky because of his disposition. What's luck? How much work did he put into it? I don't know, but he's lucky because he's, we were emailing a little this week and he's just so put together. So shout out JC. We've had great chats and he's very connected. I don't feel, I don't know. I mean, I don't feel very sort of positive about the future of the audio engineer this week. I sort of feel, I'm happy that JC is plugged into something better, but I have sort of concerns about where it's all headed, And I feel like a tidal wave is coming and I'm holding up a cup. It's
tidal
like
wave,
a towel.
What do you mean, of AI or like what kind of
bullshit? Really, of kind of lack of interest, of just. I a friend tonight, an old client in Ireland, sent me he lives in New York now, and he sent an email to me and a guy who produced a record that I recorded 20 years ago. And he said, I had to relearn this song last night for a show, and I was really happy to hear your voices at the end of it. It was like a jam acoustic thing, like bonus track at the end of a record. And at the end of it, we're talking and laughing. But I put it on my phone tonight to hear what he was talking about, because I couldn't remember. And there was so much energy in this janky recording I had made 20 years ago. It was so real, and it had people and rhythm and dynamics and stuff that I'm like, where is all this gone, So I think it's, it's John's birthday, so I want to be, it's funny that John said he wasn't feeling celebratory, so I wanted to ask him why. So I don't want to kick off the birthday celebration, but this week I'm concerned for the future of
I like this.
So are we. Yeah.
I'm concerned too. Well, you finish.
Yeah, and I was thinking recently that if any one of my brothers or sisters said to me, your nephew or niece, or if one of my daughters said, I want to be an audio engineer, I'd be like, nah, don't do it.
Ooh, this is good.
That means a thousand things, though.
Yeah.
In the record industry, maybe.
Well, hold up.
Don't do any of them.
But the first,
that's what I would.
But the first thing that Tony ever said to me when I was in the room about to work on the first song we ever worked on together was, "Don't do this. Why do you want to do this?" He said, "Why the fuck do you want to be a mix engineer? Don't do this." And then I said, "No, I really want to." Well, then he said, "Okay, then you're going to be good. You're in the right place." And then he was just making, I guess he was either making sure or was like, "All right, if you really want to, I guess here's a good place to be.
Here's an iLock."
I told you I had Pro Tools 5.1. I had an iLock. I had the other old green one that I bet no one's ever seen.
I still got one yet.
I'm kind of concerned, but then recently, I'm really into the sound of this Silk Sonic record, this Bruno Mars, Anderson .Paak song. I'm really into what Serban did.
Yeah.
That was the first mix I've heard from Serban in a long time that I really connected to. And I've connected to hundreds of Serban mixes. I mean, he's one of my favorites. I've been looking up to him, since I was a teen. For his sonic decisions and an influence on records, and I felt like he did his thing on this record, and it feels cared for, and I'm wondering how the community will respond to that record, its cleanliness, its devotion to not perfection but to detail, and there's something about it that I think is exciting for audio engineers, and people I've talked to about it in the audio engineer community have felt exactly the same way. Like, oh man, he did it. He did his thing on this, and it's nostalgic. It doesn't sound modern. It doesn't sound. I mean, it sounds modern in a sense where it sounds timeless, because it has enough low end and enough competitive. Density and saturation that I feel like it's gonna, it could hang next to any record that comes out. But the lengths of the verbs, the tails, the way that it breathes, the way that Bruno's falsetto hits in the pre-chorus into the verb, and he treats the verb, and it's like I think it's a masterful mix. So to me, this is the first time I'm excited about one of the top 5 mixers in our world in a long time. And I don't talk about this on the podcast because I don't really want to come off as a hater. I mean, these goats, for lack of better words, are there for a reason, and they make incredible sounding records. I think that a lot of them are potentially overworked and saying yes to more things than maybe they can handle on their plate as they have families and kids going off to college and whatever the changes in life are that are completely understandable. This mix stood out, and I hope it invigorates the community to hear what I heard in good mixing, in solid mixing, in what it means to be a mixer, because it sounds mixed. It doesn't sound like a great producer ref. It sounds like D-Mile, who's an amazing producer and musician, sent that off and said, go to town, mix this, and then back and forth with Bruno, with Anderson, with everybody, with the team. And when you see the love on social media, like a Serban never really talks about what he does. He just puts up the repost of Sterling Sound. That's been his go-to. They talk about how many back and forths and how much love and blood, sweat, and tears went into this record. And it sounds like it to me. So it gives me a little bit of hope, and hope isn't a word that I use often, that if people connect to that, there's a reason why they connect to it, and the mix is a big part of it.
So maybe it'll influence the way people are thinking, what they're doing,
what's capable
as engineers. Yeah. Like a new kind of North Star for pop music.
Yeah, I think so. Depending on the success of it, right? I mean, if it's, I don't know. I don't really remember the chorus, although I've been listening like 4 or 5 times. I love the record. I love the video. Everything about it. I'm buying the pants that are worn. I bought the pants that are worn in the video because I thought those trap pants were tight, right? Like the whole campaign, the whole thing behind it, the whole storyline is so captivating. The mix is equally as captivating. And I wonder, like, based on its success level, if it will translate to engineers saying, damn, that sounds good.
That's interesting. I think, like, to Rory's point, there are young people sort of joining the ranks of audio engineers every day. So like the total number of engineers grows every day, and subsequently the number of, let's say, great engineers shrinks in proportion. So you have a larger and larger number of sort of novice engineers. And people, like, as it gets more difficult to make money, or if it gets more difficult to make money at a certain thing, like, the fineries will fall by the wayside, right? So this sort of, budgets will shrink. Whatever we imagine is going to happen in the music industry, I think Rory's got a point. I think for somebody in Kansas City, like outside of Kansas City where JC is, who's got kids and stuff, like in the 90s, like, what the hell would he do if he wanted to be a mix engineer? It just wouldn't even be possible.
Right.
That's what I mean. Like, he can mix from his house with PMCs and a few panels near his kids, get some good influence from people who, have thoughtful and useful things to share. Even a few years ago, I would have thought it would be harder to just sort of go on your own in a secondary.
I see what you're saying
like
about the luck factor is, because going back to the Google search of how did Nirvana make their kick sound that big and smells like Teen Spirit, they just recorded the drums, and Dave Grohl's fucking crazy. But
you don't have that kick drum to work with. It doesn't even matter.
Well, it doesn't matter. But that's all the resources we had were magazines. It was type, right? And I had to go to Barnes and Noble and see if they had it in stock. Like, the internet they didn't have internet versions of Sound on Sound. So where the accessibility to information obviously is 100x. But to your point, the amount of thoughtful, considered, distilled information is proportionate to the degree you said not so good engineers are to the finest of engineers.
I think it's even worse than that, because I see a lot of people who are trying really hard. On one of my DIY forums this week, someone launched a new channel. They launched their new YouTube channel, some guy somewhere, I don't know where, he's in Australia or something, and made a half-hour video, and he put a lot of work into this video, and a lot of effort, but the quality of the information was not good. The perspectives, the quality of the thought behind it, the concepts, the rigor was just not there. And so there's a lot of people who care but are just misguided. And I think, you know, I watched your live with Matt this week, and you were on a tear about something, and it was really good. And then there was just this question just popped up, like, you know, what's the best thing to enhance vocals?
I know. You saw that come up?
Middle. And I was like thinking, you know, it was just like, wow, John's here doing it, and someone is watching, and that's the question that came to mind.
And
so
that's
it's like,
an opportunity to take that question, reframe it, do it, you know.
Because I'll answer it if it's good, right?
Every week. But I mean, you've answered it 100 times. It's like, well, okay, let's park the vocal for a second. Let's make some room in the synth or whatever. You've come at it the way that real people do a bunch. It's I think it's a really interesting time. I think maybe I need to borrow some of JC's enthusiam. And,
you're lacking enthusiasm today.
Well, there's a bottom line. Yeah. There's a bottom line here. I had lunch with our good friend Moritz Braun today, who's building a new dope studio here in town, and we were discussing this concept of, like, you know, we were talking about nutrition and like what a crazy science it is and what a corrupted information space it is and how hard it is to get at any information. And I'm like, the bottom line is we all have to develop our sense of discernment so that we can sort of pick and choose these channels of influence. These, you know, you get a handful of experts like we've done in the sort of nutrition space, and they don't all agree, but they're sort of in communication with each other, and they sort of represent the best, most useful information that we can find. And if a new voice comes along, then we can incorporate that and obsolete some old information, and, you know, new stuff is coming along all the time. But the bottom line, it doesn't matter what the topic is. The fundamental reasoning that goes into discerning what information is good and which is bad is the thing that we all need to develop. Like, that's the sense-making practice. And that can be about, you know, anything. I mean, we go through this practice, like how many of us have gone, oh, I want to buy this thing, and you go online, Consumer Report, like Michael does, or read the Amazon review. Like, people will spend an incredible amount of time to buy the optimal washing machine, you know, and so they're sort of using this discretion. And when it comes to like geopolitics and policy and all this other stuff, people throw that process out. And you know, so when it comes to audio, it's like, you know, I mean, obviously those voices aren't emergent, Rory, and that's part of the void that we are filling. In our circle. I mean, we did it locally with each other, and like now we have microphones in our faces, right? So for me, the bottom line is developing your discernment about who to trust and what institutions to trust, what sources of information to trust. And that trust isn't a dogmatic trust. It's reasoned, right? It's well-reasoned. And I think, like, it's a lifelong pursuit to reason well, to make better predictions about what your actions will cause. You know,
I have a follow-up question for you. So someone listening, you say that, I completely agree. The next step is how they go about finding those people and kind of filtering through that. What are you specifically looking for when looking into a channel of information or influence? Or
so when I hear somebody talking, right, and they make a claim, such and such is such and such, or take such and such supplement and it will do a thing. You know, I'm evaluating how solid that claim is, and if they don't like preface it, like, this isn't my area of expertise, but my best understanding is, if they're just like proclaiming things that have intellectual loose ends, I'm skeptical. And maybe they're just riffing and whatever, and they have like, they have maybe a blog entry you can go to and find the support for the claims they're making. If somebody's making claims that don't sound right to you, they don't sound right to me because I've developed these intuitions now, right? But if you're sort of just thinking about this for the first time, it's like, it's really philosophy 101. It's like, okay, here's a statement. I'm not going to come up with an example, but if somebody makes a claim about a thing.
Apples are great for you.
Apples are great.
Ooh, good one.
Apples are healthy.
Yeah.
Okay. Are they healthy for diabetics?
No.
Right? Are they, in what way are they healthy? Right? What if I already had 6,000 calories today? Are they still healthy?
Yeah.
Right? There are all these sort of loose, open ends to that statement.
Yeah.
And really, no food is healthy.
Right.
It can be nutritious or not, but not eating could be healthier than eating. So that's just a whole category error.
Yeah.
But there are, I would
Love
say,
that.
there's probably an RSA video, like the animated, those videos where somebody's sketching based on somebody's lecture. RSA, I think, is the channel.
Is that it?
There might be one about making sense or reasoning, or this is
Source
you can go on
evaluation,
YouTube and look up sense making, reasoning, Bayesian reasoning, whatever it is, and start to understand the framework of sense making. I don't have links or anything offhand, but there has to be the basics for sense making out there in the world. But that would be it. It would be like, is this person making substantiated claims? Can I ground these ideas in things that I know are true?
Right.
Yeah. And then how much weight, how much certainty, how much truth value does a claim have? A truth claim could have like 60% truth value. It's like, it seems like it. Not 100% sure, but it seems like it. So you do start to develop an intuition around who sound like I call it the smell test. It's like, that doesn't smell right. I'll look deeper into it, and to reserve judgment, to like not be so quick. I don't know. I don't really know how to roll back to the beginning of that process.
No, I mean, that all sounds about right. I mean, when I was building products for students in elementary school, they were doing this in the libraries, like source evaluation and going through sources on the internet and figuring out what's primary, what's secondary, what's been, summarized, what's the actual, direct source. I mean, these things are taught. Sometimes, some places
weren't taught to me.
Absorbed. Yeah, exactly.
Not to me either.
And I think, when you're younger, it might not even. I think the context is missing, because when you're a kid, you're like, sure, everything's real or fake. I don't know. I still believe in Santa Claus. Like, so what are we talking about here? But as you get older, it becomes so much more important.
Yes.
And coupled with where we're at in society, with just having so much information.
Yeah, the flood of information is a real problem.
That to me has made what you're saying so much more important than ever before.
Yes.
It was always important. It's one of the most important things, I believe, than it's ever been, because there's so much information. You don't know the sources. You don't know what they're basing their claims on.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look on Instagram, for example, which is how I would imagine a majority of people get their news and information, these things are summarized in like these carousel swiping posts. There's maybe 40 words in it, and they're alluding to some really major things across the board, whether it's design stuff, it's political stuff, it's whatever it is, well-being, health. I mean, they're all summed up in 8 to 10 slides. And so, there's so much more that is behind the scenes sometimes to what's being said. And I think your intuition to look deeper is something I've always admired, but I think that's why I wanted you to clarify it in terms of your practice.
I would think like JC's comment about not doing things because that's how they've been done.
Mm-hmm.
It sort of goes to this point as well, because it's a kind of skepticism that isn't like, what's the word? It's not the dark side of skepticism. It's a kind of healthy skepticism. It's reserving judgment or buy-in for well-reasoned arguments.
That's a good point to differentiate. There's two sides to this coin of like
there's contrarianism and
right.
just token skepticism.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a control thing. It's like a personality issue. But a healthy skepticism is like, no, I'm going to weigh my agreement with the quality of the argument or the quality of the claim and the quality of the evidence.
It also allows you to listen to people too. Just say, oh, interesting. I've never thought of it that way. Even if it's ridiculous, you're still like, oh, so this is how you think about it? Okay, cool. So how about this? Have you tried this? But we steel man arguments, we straw man arguments to meet people where they're at whenever we can. The minute that's not possible, then there's no conversation to be had, right? So I think that's an added level to the discernment factor and what you're talking about is like, who are you then interacting with on these thoughts and where are they at with the two? So, because I guess I have a dead serious question. So if someone has a urinary tract infection and is diabetic, is cranberry juice healthy?
Unsweetened? Cranberry juice isn't very sweet without added sugar.
Yeah. But does that exist anywhere?
I'm not here to give medical advice.
I know.
This seems like an urgent matter for
Yeah,
you. Are you okay, man?
This doesn't.
Yeah, I've been peeing a lot.
This doesn't. This doesn't constitute medical advice. Anything said on this podcast.
All right, so you're checking off your list. You're prefacing what you're about to say.
Yeah. See,
I wanted to just you guys are sort of teasing out reasoning and discerning facts and maybe deciding whether given information on techniques for an engineer.
Not only facts, but well-reasoned ideas and approach and philosophy and
Yeah. So ahead of that is sort of, or upstream of that is the idea of taste, which is why sort of the question that popped up on the Matt Rad was sort of perplexing to me, because I think what you do well, John, in the world, to get into a little bit of a celebratory mode, what you do well is sort of is talk about your taste and the things you like and the things you don't like, and you're less hung up on what you do to sort of to wield it or to shape it, but you've got to know whether the snare is too bright. There's 100 ways to set the snare back. And there's old school ways, there's LA2As and 1176s and the old fashioned hardware and consoles, and there's saturation and there's multi-band whatevers. A million people doing different things in different ways. But before you pick a tool, you've got to know whether the snare is too bright. What is too bright? Is it affecting the vocal? Is the song driven by the rhythm? Is it driven by the vocal?
Is it rational at all in that way?
Yeah.
Or do you just know?
This is what I'm getting at, is that I'm more concerned about this because I feel a sort of a confidence that, not confidence, I have a hope that good ideas can win out over bad ideas, but I am concerned about the quality of people's taste right now. That I tried listening to that Bruno Mars song, and it's a lovely production, but there's no song there that I can perceive. And I think D Mile has worked on some killer songs. Like, I have a playlist of his stuff. I don't hear the song, so I don't care about the production because if it's hanging on a very sort of. And we had this about the 24 karat gold. I also I didn't believe that was a standout smash the way you guys did. But I feel like the sort of the proving ground of live performance, like we've talked so often about comedy, the audience judges beat by beat, phrase by phrase, punchline by punchline. You either get the laugh or you don't. And live performance was like that for songs. Many artists have talked about, Ryan even talked about it on our first conversation. He said, you you go out on the road and you think this is the one the crowd will go nuts for, and then it's the weird B-side that they freak out for because it just has something, and we're missing that. And then because so many people are looking up to their idols, they're looking up to Jason Joshua instead of the artist, then I think that people's taste is there's a lot of people who haven't developed a sense of what the music is for, and I don't mean that to diminish diminish them in any way. I think they're focused on the wrong things, or they're focused on aspects of the music instead of maybe.
This is a really interesting point, and in some way I don't know how to put it into words, but I have a feeling that aesthetic taste is somehow associated with quality reasoning and education and exposure to the classics and understanding context and ways in which humans came together in the past. And, because if all you have is a Jason Joshua playlist, you don't have a wide range of influences there to shape your taste. And let's not say that these records don't have purpose, because they do. They represent common ground for a very large number of young people.
Yeah.
So the purpose is social cohesion in this music. It's meant to be visceral, not too heavy, not too heady, not too intellectual. It's meant to be easily digested, and so that that common ground is sort of that clearing in the forest is as big as it can be.
Yeah.
That being said, if that dominates the sort of aesthetic landscape, you don't really have the recipe for innovation. You have the recipe to make the same song over and over. So I'm not really tying it back to the reasoning thing. It seems more like exposure.
Yeah.
Exposure to other things, and that's what you get in sort of like classical education. You get the exposure to the ways it's been done. So you understand like where you are on the timeline. You're like a part of something bigger.
I think it's coupled with its exposure, but it's also that lens of analysis applied to the thing you're being exposed to. And then in the analysis part is where the
relevance
is, and the reasoning comes in. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's like, you could see a bunch of things.
But you actually can't have a historical account without good reasoning by the historian.
Right.
In order to weigh the evidence to build the historical account.
Yes.
Well, let me ask how much analysis you guys needed to do when you saw Nirvana on, what was it? You saw it on SNL, that rerun. There's
we
no
did a lot of
analysis.
That
Well, I'm sure you did after the fact,
It'll
right?
need analysis in 100 years, though.
It's already been analyzed for us.
There's
two decades
I'm driving
later.
at something. What I think is missing. There's a poverty of available space in people's brains for colors and emotions and human connection. I think we're in such a noisy world, and I think this is over. This is something that we've said so often. Not we, the four of us. I mean, it's we, the culture. Everyone knows this, and we say it, but we don't actually stop and take account of just how noisy. When Nirvana landed, when I was 18. I had a lot of space in my life for that record to blow my brain open. And the record met the moment and changed music forever. That space doesn't exist now in the culture because people's lives are just jammed with input, with constant scrolling and Reddit and gaming and on-demand TV. And we were talking the other day about, I was talking to Sydney about one of my daughters learning to read time. And the question was, why would she learn to read time? Like everything in her life is asynchronous. She's got to show up for some Zoom classes for homeschool, and that's it. Everything else is on whatever clock we want it to be. There is no get to school at 9 a.m. There is no my favorite show is on at 4 p.m. It's all gone. We live in a completely asynchronous world, and getting more so. So I think this when I think about the reasoning and the ideas that you guys are talking about, upstream of that is, so we'll say an engineer. Let's make it specific. An engineer needs to know techniques to brighten or darken a snare, set it forward, give it energy, set it back, lay it back, whatever we would do to a snare. Upstream of that, you need to know why you would do it. And upstream of that, you need to feel the song. Mm-hmm. So if you get in a punk song and the snare is tuned up and aggressive and spanky, you need to feel that energy, know what it is, then know how the snare relates to the other elements of the thing, and then have a technique to deploy or not.
When you say what do you mean by that?
There's so much.
Articulate?
No, like John knows. No, like we know.
I was just
where
about to
you
say,
hear it in your.
That's feeling.
That's feeling. It's intuitive. Yeah.
But you just know.
But this is what I'm talking about. Where I'm meeting less and less people who know,
who feel. Yeah. Who feel it
who
before analyzing.
So I like this way of using know. Yeah.
I can see something in my mind
it's
and I'm
intuition.
Not describing it. But so if we imagine, it's an intuition. So the technique is later. Before the technique, you need to know why you want to change it.
Yes.
And before you need to know why you want to change it, you've got to feel the actual original emotion, the intent of the artist. And I think it breaks right there. I think very few people are feeling the intent of the artist. Right. And actually, if you go upstream again, very few artists are getting the chance to do it. Did any of you guys catch the Billie Eilish doc on Apple?
No.
It's really powerful.
Yeah.
It's really powerful. I got halfway through it and was and found it pretty sad. And then I watched it from start to finish again the other night with Sid, and it was very powerful. It's a worth checking out. But you see in that, and I don't want to sort of get ahead of what you guys will perceive of it, but you see in that how rare it is for a young artist to develop in a place where they can have their own voice. You know, how lucky she and Finneas were to have this pocket where they could be themselves and develop something that was different to the mainstream. And that's what I see as missing a lot right now. You know, I'm not there. Lucas Keller, who runs Milk and Honey, that Matt Rad is signed to. He posted this week an article, and they said that there are 60,000 new songs a day hitting Spotify at the moment.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I saw that.
60,000. The last number was 40.
Yeah, I saw.
So we're just in this sort of exponential increase.
Yeah.
So I think we talked about it maybe at dinner. I can't remember if we talked about it on mic, but maybe we did. But I got a request. I did a very sort of Bowie-esque kind of art rock album for a client in Berlin. And he wrote and said, hey, I have one favor to ask before you master the record. Can you listen to it from start to finish?
Before you touch.
Once. The whole record once.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, A, of course, but B, why do we not do that?
Yeah.
No one does that.
Yeah.
The whole record down, start to finish. I don't know a single mastering engineer who does that.
Well, okay, hold on a second. There's by the way, just everything you said, there's just so much.
Well, go. I've been talking.
No, I know. Well, let's just hit this one first. Records aren't even coming to master all at once, so this is impossible. This is impossible 9 out of 10 times. They're not coming to mix at the same time. I recently just got asked by a producer to kind of help QC and listen to the entirety of a mastered album that I mixed like 7 or 8 songs on to help, because there's no objective ear that could, listen down and give notes to the whole song and the continuity of the album. And my first response was, hell yeah, I want to do that. Like, that's crazy. I want that responsibility for this artist. It's not, I don't know if it's full, whatever the responsibility is, I now have and share in it, and that's exciting. So I love that someone even requested that has happened. The connection part, I'm like, I don't know if this is upstream, downstream, it's somewhere on the stream. I don't know if artists actually want to be connected to. I think this is a bit of a riff on Live with Matt Rad and on Tuesday. There's just no mystery. Like, we know everybody's view on everything. There's no need to listen to the lyrics. There's no need to connect to the album anymore to understand who the artist is that you're a fan of. Therefore, you're not really a fan. Like, there's no real level of depth of connection outside of a few. I think Billie is a great example of one. I think Justin Bieber was for a time, like he was to me like the last superstar before Billie Eilish. I think Billie's the maybe the one and only right now that's a true superstar, like Beyonce level superstar, Whitney Houston level. And even at that, they don't even compare. They pale in comparison to that level, but it's still up there. They'll Justin Bieber will be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Maybe Billie Eilish will, right? Like these people will get inducted. But there's no need to connect to the album. There's no need to connect to the lyric. So, and I'm operating from a sense of guilt after what you're talking about with this Silk Sonic, Bruno Mars, Anderson .Paak album. I'm actually geeked out as a fan of production. I prefaced the whole thing by saying I don't hear a song in there just like you, but I don't care about the song. I care about the delicacy of how it's presented. And I actually think there is a song. I think like I love Bruno's falsetto section in the pre-chorus. And like I love Anderson's attitude. He's playing the drums. There's a lot of attitude. There's a lot of bits. There's a lot of caricatures, and there's a lot that people can latch onto. There's an amazing video that's really inclusive and fun, and it reminds me of old '90s hip hop videos when people are out in schoolyards and parks and like doing their shit. Like there's a lot of great about it. But you're right, the song is not great. But why do we need a great song? No one's listening anyway.
I have a thought there. I feel like nowadays there's more to connect to. Like you can connect to literally their Instagram channel first before you even hear their music. And maybe you identify with some other part of them, some age thing or
the archetype, all the other
whatever.
reasons why people
that's what I mean. What I'm saying is that's more attractive than the lyric. So there's no need for the song because of what you're saying.
Yeah. It was flipped where like you didn't really know a lot about
nobody knows who Prince is.
Right.
Nobody knows. They barely know what kind of guitar he plays.
The occasional interview.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The super obscure language and just aloof. And, you don't know Beyonce. None of us knew Beyonce until that HBO documentary. We still don't know.
Right.
That was still put on to some degree because she can.
But I think there's an opportunity now for artists to really engage, like really become artists with a capital A, not just like singers, you know what I mean? Like they can be artists now. They can own more of this chain. And I think what we're seeing is this sort of intersection of people believing that they just can be singers and find someone that does everything else. Whereas now there's other people realizing at the same time, like, no, you need this whole thing. Like watching Billie's documentary, it's a world that she has. Even the clothing, like it's a whole world. And I think we're at this like crosshair or crossfade.
Crossroads.
It's crossroads. There you go. I wanted to use a music term. Counter-Strike or Call of Duty music term, actual term.
Right.
But crossroads, where there's some artists still kind of hanging on to that. Like I can still be like Whitney or anyone in that camp. Or no, I actually need to be an artist. I need to give more to the world because there's a lot of noise. People might plug into my shoe line before they hear my song.
Yeah.
And sort of there's more
ways in.
And to that end, there's a great opportunity there because the people that are like incredible artists with a capital A will be like really admired and revered. I mean, I think it's going to be incredible when like some of those artists develop. Like you're seeing seeds of it with like Brockhampton trying this new form. Like, what does it mean
the new
to be
kind of band?
Yeah, but they're not there yet. It's sort of the beginning of this history, I feel like. And I think there will be a time where there maybe the 10 biggest artists are these movie studio / songwriters /
world
all these other
builders.
things. Yeah.
So this is all potentially exciting.
Yeah.
But to share in the concern that Rory's bringing to the table, I'm actually curious why. Like, there's really no incentive to make a great piece of music that doesn't sound like something else. There's no place. I mean, like, no, you don't make money in music, right? Like Kanye loses money in music and makes it by the Gap. Like that's there. If he can't make money in music, then who can make money in music? And, obviously people are making money in music and whatever. But if there's no incentive to make great songs, then there's no incentive to make great productions, and then there's no incentive to make great mixes. So down the chain, there's less incentive for care, right? So when I hear this this Serbian mix on Silk Sonic, it sounds cared for. It sounds like everybody involved, no matter how good the song is, cared about every part that was played.
And tried to be excellent.
And tried to be excellent. And the fact that exists is both exciting and terrifying, because it's exciting because it hasn't happened in so long, and it's terrifying because it hasn't happened in so long.
Yeah.
It is one record.
Why do you think it happened for them?
Because, and this is the riff that started on Live with Matt Rad, is people need to stop. People need to know when to stop doing something. And Bruno stopped. We haven't gotten a Bruno record in 2 years. Anderson put out a record with Dre. It didn't really do that well. Like, people didn't really give it the love. And Anderson's so fucking talented. He's one of the best musicians that we have access to listen to.
Tiny Desk concert.
It's
was
just
amazing.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think they stopped. I think they stopped and said, what are we doing? What are we going to give to the people? What can we? What do we have to offer?
That pause.
It's a pause. And to me, it's a different kind of pause. Like, you can pause during an argument. You can pause during a tennis match. You can pause in certain parts of your life, but then you're back on. Like, the Waking Up app has the minute interruptions throughout your day, and you can have as many as you want, and that's a quick pause. I'm talking like a year. I'm talking just stop. Like, my riff on it was, I've been thinking about this for a bunch of years. I want to take a 3-month pause and go to Le Cordon Bleu in Paris, and not do it in America. Like, do it in Paris for 3 months, live in Paris for a summer. I'm not going to be a chef at a restaurant, but like, what a cool reason to go to Paris for 3 months, live somewhere else, and develop a skill.
Yeah.
Because I'm interested in skill development, right? So it's a part of my personality to have some sort of ambitious drive to possess a skill. I don't have to be the master at everything. It's impossible to be the master at more than one thing, I would say. There's probably some savants in the world, but to be a master at more than one thing seems irrelevant, really. But it's a pause. It's a reason to say, I'm not going to do music.
I think it was Steve Jobs that said, I think I might have mentioned it before, that to have an advantage in a field, to make unique contributions, you need to have unique experiences. That makes the difference. There are a lot of people that can acquire skills, but if you have a wide range of special and unique experiences that shape your perspective, other people aren't going to have that perspective. And that's what that sounds like to me, is like, how many mix engineers have just spent 3 months in Paris cooking? You know, that's what I mean. Like,
I don't know
what it could
Not
do
that many.
to sort of refresh your point of view and, you know, reset your nervous system. And
I think that's why they brought their A game to that record, because they stopped.
Yeah.
That's
anyone I know who's been around both of those camps. So Anderson did his last record with Dre, and, you know, knowing some of the people in that camp and people around Glenwood and stuff around Bruno, both of them seem super dedicated to you know, the craft and real engineering and taking the time. And there's no accident that they're doing high level work. The fact that I don't love the song it doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? It's just, that's just my taste. There's no question that they're doing, that they're serious.
I haven't heard a record in a while that I haven't said to myself or someone near me that I wouldn't change a thing about it. And that record, what are you going to do with it? This is great. It just sounds, I feel that way almost about Brockhampton. Like, what would I do differently? Probably compress the low end less and like have that sub real low. But other than that, it's pretty fucking great.
I think it's important for me to say right now that, you know, I'm 45 and I came up in a different country in a different time, and music was very, very important to me. The most important thing. And when Michael talks about these artists with a capital A and working across all these disciplines, I don't care. I love music. I don't care about the shoes and the video. I never watch the videos. I don't wear the shoes. I'm in love with music, and I realize that I'm out of step with that. But what I you know, I'm out of step with the culture, I guess, and I need to acknowledge that. But as someone who's working on the records at the end of the chain and sort of hoping and longing for more artfulness and more connectedness and more people with something to say, less corrupted by bad techniques and bad sounds and over mixing and all of the things that we know we struggle with. You know, it's my love of music that sort of got me into this thing. I'm not interested in the other things. I don't care if people are making great videos, and I don't care if they've got a good Instagram feed. You know, it just doesn't. It's not interesting to me, and it doesn't diminish it. There are people, millions of people who care a lot about that. Probably billions of people. I'm just not one of them.
And they might define that as loving music. You know what I mean?
Sure. Mm-hmm. You've described your sister's experience, and I think that's really like just hanging on one lyric. I think you said one time we talked about it, or maybe it was on one of your lives. And I thought that was really insightful, that like there is no one experience of anything. It lands differently for different people. When I look across the landscape, there's my connection to records, and then there's my sort of outlook on what's happening in culture and what's happening to people's brains and what's happening to our information space and our art space. And thinking about the artist with a capital A, it's like, who won the decathlon at the last Olympics? Who fucking knows? Who gives a shit about the decathlon doing 10 things? Who won the 100 meters? Like, I love specialists and not sort of all-rounders who are doing a bit of everything. That's me. That's my taste, you know?
Right.
I don't care if Picasso was a great homemaker or whether he made a mean sourdough. He was a fucking killer artist. Probably,
but
by all accounts, an asshole.
It's also important to clarify that Picasso didn't need to be another thing. And now we're at a place where that's changed. Like the context is unfortunately or fortunately or neutrally changed.
Well, I imagine a lot of people do like it. They want to be multimedia. You know, people do want to do that.
That's a key point.
Yeah, it's that people can. They see the network, like they see the connections. They see how all these things work together and augment them. They see the opportunities, they go for it. It's a certain kind of ambition that maybe wasn't possible before.
Right. Or unless you had millions of dollars for budget.
Well, let's not forget, like having music in an ad was faux pas until like what? Like Moby? Like Moby? You know what I mean? Like not that long ago.
Right.
Led Zeppelin was not like getting syncs in commercials because it was a bad look. You know, so like that landscape of opportunity opened up where culturally people were like, yeah, whatever, do some shoes. Like it didn't reduce their credibility as musicians.
Yeah, I mean, the Beastie Boys still don't allow syncs.
Right.
That's still happening.
Because they're from a different...
It's a legacy.
Different context. Yeah. And I respect all contexts because it's just where people are at the moment. They don't even necessarily know it. I think like my cousins are probably a better example of like younger listening to music is like half of a song in a TikTok video and then they follow that artist on Instagram and then they do this and that and that. Now they're connected into all the nodes. Maybe they are like, oh, they did a YouTube video, I'm going to follow that. And then they hear the record like 2 years later, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, it's like...
It's socialized.
It's a different, it's a totally different form. We've been talking about forms lately. The form is just so different now. The ways in.
It's so integrated. Music is so integrated in people's daily life. Like, Rory, you and I, we probably spent a lot of time when we were young, alone, in a room with headphones or speakers.
Right.
Dark room,
taken in,
pulled.
like just in the world of the music, focused on it, listening, like discovering new things. Like obviously young people are still doing this, but what proportion?
Maybe at least one.
At least one.
No, I mean we meet these people on occasion. I mean,
I've said before, you know, would 15-year-old me have spent my time on porn on my phone or listening to Sonic Youth? It's like porn on your phone as a 15-year-old is awfully compelling. You know, to a young mind, right? A young boy's mind. So, and that's just one thing. Gaming with your friends, you know, whatever. There's a whole bunch of things. We spent after school every day hours and hours in a darkened room listening to records. Yeah. And we would sit there, 2 dudes, 3 dudes, not talking, just listening, flipping records, waiting for someone to buy the next record. It was like it was very reverential and it's not because Disneyland like was outside my door. There was not that much going on. It was not an exciting place to live. We had nature, but we didn't, these records were very big in our landscape. And now they're something that happens.
Now they're very small in people's landscapes.
Now they're small.
Yeah.
And
they're crumbs. They're not feasts.
But
yes.
But I just want to correct there because I don't think it's black or white. I think that there are feasts of that are some artists are like that. Like I'm thinking. I have a question I want to propose to the group after this, but
do it.
Which is, what is the same? Like, what hasn't changed? And I wrote down social connection, emotional connection in general, and collection, like collecting CDs and sharing, right? And those things, like those functions, have been kept. The form has changed, but I'm thinking like Fortnite is a social game, and on Fortnite, you get into a car, songs play on the levels, the songs. I played it for the first time the other day at my sister's house. Fascinating game.
Yeah.
Completely world built. You're literally building a world in this game. Like,
it's a bunch of popular games put into one. It's a master game.
You're running around, and it's just like a free-for-all, shoot-'em-up kind of game. But to defend yourself at any moment, anywhere, you could build around you. To block yourself, you could build a whole house with stairs and everything. But then there's music playing, and then there's all this IP loaded in, so you can get The Mandalorian or whatever. Shout out to Disney. I don't know. I don't know. I'm the next Mandalorian.
They don't need the shout out.
Just letting everyone know.
Yeah.
But anyway,
shouting.
So what is it doing?
Stop shouting.
It's sort of the same. It's the same functions because then I'm thinking about Fortnite has these events. One of which was Travis Scott playing inside of this world you could only access for a short amount of time. And then they did a replay of it. Yeah, and like
huge.
Thousands or millions of people all logged in, went to this thing in character.
10 million?
10 million.
Graham's telling us 10 million.
Shout out to Graham. Can I do that? All right. So yeah, 10 million people showed up to this concert. And now I really want to experience it, knowing what it's like and how close you can get in the graphics. But I mean, that's a feast right there. And that's still exists. That's social, that's emotional, that's connection. And it's even collection in some ways, the game itself.
I don't know. The kind of like
this is great.
I can appreciate the similarities. However, when I say feast and crumbs, I mean like in terms of meaning. Like songs when I was young, the way that the weight, how deeply I listened, how like it wasn't about my friends. It wasn't about like, it wasn't even concerts. It's like a feast of record making is like where you're just in the record and there's a lot to listen to. Like you can listen, like there are different passages you can go down. Like when we're listening to the Jazz Messengers, Art Blakey record, right? You can sort of focus on the drums for this track. And the next time you listen, you could just follow the bass the whole way down. Like there are all these different, like in great paintings, you have these sort of passages you can go down, aspects to explore. That's what I mean. It's deep listening. That's the piece where I don't see young people doing. That's the thing that like classical music and jazz brings you into. It's like worlds of complex emotion. And that's what I mean by crumbs. It's like TikTok, the thing, there's the beat, that's cool. It's physical. It plays an important role. Like if we didn't have fun, quote unquote, mindless music, like the world would be a less interesting, less fun place, and we'd all probably be less healthy.
Right.
It's an important aspect of who we are. We fool around sometimes. You know what I mean? We evaluate serious things in a way that's not so deep sometimes. Like that's the range. That's all good. I think like drawing the, and obviously we don't and can't have like a real understanding of what the culture is doing and what does that even mean. But
I think we're talking about youth culture, whatever that means.
To go back to the question, to answer what's different, because you're talking about two different.
What's the same?
Yeah, I know, but I want to answer it with saying what's different.
Classic. But I was trying to get away from that point. That was the whole point of asking this question.
It's his fucking birthday. He can do what he wants.
I know. All right.
No, I guess what I'm saying. You described a modern feast.
Mm-hmm.
But to Spider's point, how many people are feasting on Fortnite, Travis Scott lyric versus the full experience of what that is? And that's not feasting on music, right? So that's the difference in the same.
I would like to defend Travis Scott and say that I think people are feasting on those lyrics.
I'm not saying that. In that experience.
In that moment?
In that experience.
We weren't there. None of us were there.
Wait, what do you mean? They're playing the video game. We know that you can't multitask at that level playing high-level video game.
You're not. So the game shuts off. You're not allowed to play. So Fortnite shuts down. You can't play.
And it's a
You
concert.
can't shoot. You can only walk. It's fucking insane.
Yeah.
Then I don't know.
Yeah,
then I don't know.
Brilliant.
Then I don't know. I mean, of course, yes, of course.
I'm so
Brilliant.
jealous. I want to experience it. Like the next one that happens, I will be at my sister's place. Like
But you'll be
what's
there
happening.
live to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And that's important, this gathering
With my
piece,
sister,
which
with her boyfriend, together.
And the world.
With the thing. And the world.
That's
And anyone he's connected to. And
Rory, what up?
Anyway.
No, yeah. I mean, that isn't even that doesn't even arouse 1% of the body. Like I get that it's and this it's interesting because with the girls, like this whole Pokemon thing that they're going through right now, Michael, which you are part of, it's really interesting trying to connect with them and support them. They've got a book. They're both learning how to read. The book is a really great way. They're so into Pokemon right now that it makes them curious and they want to read, and that helps drive their reading. And trying to understand the world, trying to find those connection points, the commonalities, like Spider says. I think going back to this experience of listening to records when we were younger, and we are 10 years older than you guys, and it's a lot. 10 years older than you and 20 years older than Graham. It's a different time and doubly so, where I came from. But more than just, and it's Spider who identified this theme and who's really sort of made it a central theme in our work collectively. This human connection piece, we reached into those records to try and understand our lives, to try and understand where we were at, to try and understand the world, to try and understand what New York felt like. It was so exciting and distant to a kid in a small town in Ireland. To the smell and the texture of it and the feeling of it. I mean, for you guys, it was half an hour down the road. For me, it was a big deal. Or Le Mystère de la Voix Bulgare, Spider. It's a record we've talked about. These Bulgarian choirs. These records bring you to another place, and you're trying to when you're in a locked in your own head, in a small town, in a house, in a world that's very predictable, these things allowed you to sort of explore the different facets of human connection. And I think that really there's something to be said. I don't know if it's possible to ever enjoy food as much if you're full all the time, or to ever enjoy food as much if you have everything you need whenever you want it, or to enjoy food as much when there's a 5-star chef just throwing it out for you. There are times when you hike all day and you come down and you get to a little cantina and they've got one thing on the menu. It's like a ribollita soup and that's it. And because you're hungry, that rustic bowl of soup is that's it. That's the best meal you ever had. I'm thinking of defining food moments for me. They weren't in bougie restaurants almost ever. They're moments where someone put extra care in, or you had this long lead up where someone is cooking all day and you're smelling it in the oven, or you suddenly someone shares something with you that maybe you didn't know was on the menu at all. I think maybe I've described one time being in Italy. The first time we were there, we stopped into this little cantina to taste some wine. And the woman, she had no English and we had no Italian. And she started like pouring big glasses of wine for us. made bruschetta for us, brought us a wheel of pecorino cheese to eat, and it just kept going on. It was like ridiculous levels of hosting. And eventually she pours this walnut liqueur for us. And so we're like, okay, we'll buy the wine, we'll buy the cheese, everything was made herself, the bread, everything. And then we were like, so we'll buy this walnut liqueur. And she was like, oh no, first we had to figure out how it was made. And she brought us like down the garden to explain, to take a walnut off the tree, crack it open, give it to us to taste and be like, it's this. And then we were like, okay, so we'll take a bottle. And she's like, no, this is just for family. And it's like, you can't, that is not a commodifiable experience. That's something that comes out of being in a new place and in a new context. And I think a lot of what I'm describing, this deep connection, really was just about the absence of other things. It made the things we had much more special. It was the absence of games, the absence of porn, the absence of on-demand TV, the absence really of many TV channels. That's why music has this sort of outsized meaning in my life.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, that's a big point. This is kind of what we've been driving at the whole time.
Yeah, I think so.
It's just noisy.
And I'm the first one to get up in arms when I hate the idea that kids these days are somehow different. I think Michael's point is really key, that I don't know that the same things are happening, but certainly the same needs are there. People need connection. They need to be understood. They need guidance. They need inspiration. They need things that express the feelings that they don't have the words for. Movies to cry to, or games to be anxious about, or whatever. I don't know how people are, expressing all their things, but these needs have not gone away. I just think a lot of them were in this kind of crazy banquet of sort of choice and options, and yet people are still hungry. I deleted 900 accounts that I followed this week on Instagram.
Proud of you.
900. And actually one of the things that set me on that thing, which, and I know I'm on a bit of a rant, but one of the things was Jason Joshua posted a song. I don't know who the artist was. It was an awful song. And there was a woman standing in front of a big set of letters that said the word pussy, and she was just shaking in a bikini, and the song had some thing that was just like pussy. It was like the C-list version of wet ass pussy or whatever. And it was just like, wow, I've had enough of all of this. It's time to just start unfollowing like a motherfucker, I was deeply uninspired.
Very proud of you.
Very proud.
Yeah.
The problem is what's left is not any good either.
Well, that's the next part.
Now I'm just seeing the same 7 posts.
I mean, the depth of human connection in the absence of other inputs. That's an interesting idea. I mean, really, music has the potential to connect us in ways that even words can't. It's sort of the terrain of music is much broader than the terrain of language.
Absolutely.
Actually,
it's precursor to language.
The Robert Sapolsky lecture I was just listening to, he talks about music and language, and that there's people whose brains have been affected in some way by some either test or accident or both.
Trauma.
Where they were not able to speak, but they could say words when they were singing them. You got to watch it. It's wild.
Who is he, Michael? Who is Robert Sapolsky?
Sapolsky is a Stanford, or was a Stanford professor, or is, and I guess nowadays it's a YouTube professor. And he's been on, I know he's on Tim Ferriss. I think he was also on Rogan.
I mean,
he's been on Sam.
Yeah, Sam. Yeah, he's writing books. He's an
I thought we've talked
lecturer.
about Robert Sapolsky. No?
We might have, yeah.
Everyone that I send a link to says great beard. That's the first comment. You'll know him by his beard.
I mean,
people
are able to calm their Parkinson's tremors with music. Like music is way deep.
What was that documentary Alive Inside about the
about
dementia sufferers and Alzheimer's sufferers who could have these moments of lucidity when songs from their youth were played, and they would remember the lyrics, but also they would have this period after hearing the song where they were more lucid and more present and could remember people, you know.
It's very moving.
Do you think what?
Oh yeah.
No, you go.
Oh no, I was just going to. I think we've sort of looped back around to your Matt Rad and I. What you were driving at there, which is, you know, so I don't want people to live in a world where they don't have Instagram and they don't have the internet and they don't have on-demand TV. I don't want to strip those things away from people because they're nice things. But your point of getting to a place where you're a little hungry, you know, like a music fast, a break away from work. I did 6 weeks in Paris once, and it was life-changing, you know, to get away from my world and my life, and at the time, illness, just to have that perspective and to be inspired by beautiful things, even though we were broke and eating falafel. But I think there's something there in the context of this whole conversation. I thought what you were saying on Matt's show was really, really interesting, you know?
I'm at the place. I don't remember where I said this or who I said it to be honest. It might have been at dinner with. I don't remember actually. I'm not even there. Like I'm not ready to break. I feel like I'm just getting started, right? So I just think it's an interesting concept for people to break and pause. I'm like, I got another couple of years before I take that long pause. I'm about to hit this. You know, if we have any celebratory nature to this conversation moving forward, because that was fairly grim view on.
I'm trying to keep it light.
That was not light. No. I think it's all real, and I'm grappling with it. You know, my way to mix records is to try to pull out as much of the intent and connection that I possibly can pull out, while also maintaining the non-complexity and flatline nature of a lot of the song types that I work on. So I'm just trying to find that like 10%, 20% that I can pull out and say, oh, damn, that's what he's saying, or that's what she's saying. Like, I want to make you feel that, at least in this section, right? Like earlier today when the guys were setting up, I'm like automating a saturation, you know, just to distort one part where like dude's giving it to us for a moment. Like just listen to that moment. You know, if you don't listen to the whole thing, like let that jump out at you. And it's not so controlled. It's a little too loud. Like that's just how I'm trying to connect with music, but I'm grappling with the noise and like the idea that I don't even know if I'm a fan of music anymore. But like you're saying, inherently, I must be, because I've done the dark rooms by myself with friends, only listening to records, glass of wine, water, any substance, you know, just things to evoke some profound experience. It's like going to a museum and staring at the same painting for an hour, sitting on,
remember
you know,
that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Like I have profound memories of sitting for hours in front of paintings, but with records on. They were on in the headphones. Like these, and they scored my childhood. They scored my teens. Like all these records, and I don't know. This is what I was about to say, just to what you were saying. I don't know that people that can have lucid experiences with Alzheimer's are going to put on a Travis Scott record. I don't know.
Maybe in the future.
I wonder, like, of this time, is that what's going to give the lucid experience?
Or is it from their youth or their...
But if it is in their
from
youth.
Their memory.
But you mean in like 40, 50 years?
Yes.
Oh, I see what you
mean.
Like,
is there enough... Is there enough there? Is there? I mean, this is an open question. Like there's no answer to this. Is there enough depth in the lyric and the production value?
Oh my God, this is a great question.
To actually do what we're talking about other records doing.
Test.
Is the music having the same neurological impact
exactly
in
what
youth to embed itself? To them become associated with the things that matter later.
That on the deep level and on the surface level, I actually, my claim, if I were to make one, is that it's not because of how. Anyway, because of a lot of things.
Because it's not because what you see with old folks now is like they'll play like Glenn Miller and this big band music that they would dance to when they were teenagers and in their 20s and 30s or whatever. Yeah. Is Travis Scott going to provide that wholesome influence.
Yeah.
Well, you'd have to break it in two.
In 50 years.
One is does the music inherently or intrinsically have the characteristics to connect to their
That's what I'm trying to get at.
to their neurology? That's one question.
That's one.
The other one is even if it did, like let's imagine that you deleted Travis Scott and replaced it all with the Beatles, and let's assume we all agree the Beatles are, everything that's great about music, right? For the sake of argument.
Do we have to?
The second question is, do people have the bandwidth to even take it in? If it's the soundtrack to Fortnite,
Yes.
to your point earlier, John, does it ever rise to the level of
Or do you need to focus on it for it to have that influence?
All of these,
Those are 3 different studies
Yes.
altogether. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and then so here's something I want to say at this point is that it's important to me that people understand, at least for me, that I'm not setting up a kind of a hierarchy where sort of my experience of music is worth more or deeper or better than my 15-year-old niece or my 17-year-old nephew or whatever.
Of course.
Or my kids' experience of music. I see my kids lose their shit for songs all the time in the living room, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a better or worse thing. But I do think that an interesting question to ask would be to take me in Ireland in 1985 as a 10, 11, 12-year-old, whatever, and compare my experience of music, what song, music, and listening to music together with other people meant to me, to everyone who came before me, right? So the entire history of humanity. So that the sort of the general tenor of that experience compared to people in 1950, 1850, 1750, 1650, right? All the way back. And then jump to now, just 20 years, 30 years later, and do the same. And I think you'll find that my experience had way more in common with that historical version of what music was.
Sure, it's like a hockey stick. Yeah.
And now it's just part of what I think is societal overwhelm,
Yes.
It's just another part of this thing that we're not yet ready to. I think I imagine that we'll come to realize that it was it will be looked back on as a very sad time in history. Where we're at right now. I don't think it. I get the whole thing and
what a year to turn 35. Cool.
I mean in terms of just what we're expecting of our bodies to take in this. You're someone who I've learned a lot from in this regard, because you're very thoughtful about what goes into your body in terms of
everything.
Your diet, your sleep, your meditation, how and when you engage with people. So you're actually someone who's curating that much more than I am. Which is I think a really good thing.
I could imagine us collectively learning that we need to better manage the flow of information coming at us.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's going to. This needs to be taught at school. This needs to be a class. This is a course.
It needs to be understood and the words put into a way that's compelling to people.
Like the idea of time out in elementary school or preschool or whatever school should be reframed as a positive. Like you should be put in time out.
Yeah.
This is school where the Chromebooks are provided by Google. So let's talk about the incentive structure there to limit information.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it was something that...
Yeah, but timed and parentally controlled access. You know what I mean? It's just it's not enough of a blanket statement.
It's a technology solution.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
I
think first we have to get, as a culture, we probably have to get sicker before people will sort of realize, hey, we've gone too far. Just like we did with we've talked about this before, with pre-made, microwave dinners or sauces in jars.
Yep.
In the 80s, late 70s, 80s, early 90s, that was super normal. People would just cook dinner out of a jar.
Ragu.
Ragu, exactly. And then there was a sort of a cultural wave against that. Of course, there are still people eating like that, but more people are eating sort of from scratch than they used to, right? Culturally, it's become, more important to make your own sauce than to dump in a ragu, right? And I think the same thing will happen. I hope the same thing will happen with information, that people will realize we can't take this level of input,
It hurts. It's exhausting.
It's exhausting, yeah. And
constant communication is actually exhausting. I mean, obviously everyone has on a different level, whether, how introverted or extroverted you are and where you get your energy from. Like constant dialogue, I speak for myself. I kind of can't handle it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And with that, someone else. Just kidding. Just kidding. I'm good right now. Now.
I wanted to kind of flip it a little bit, make it a little positive.
Yes, please.
Okay, do it.
So
we've been trying. We haven't found a way. I'm sure you'll find a way.
This guy over here in the red.
The red
mute
background. My mic.
Rory,
a good start.
Rory, go home.
Yeah. Who has the power to do that? Who can mute him?
No, sorry.
Right,
what's up? What you got?
All right. So we know where we're at. We know that society is relatively fucked in some ways at its current form, a lot of information, et cetera, et cetera. We've just talked about it. I'm aware. We're all aware. So what can someone do now? And if you are teaching a class or a course in this, again, hypothetically, for now, what are you teaching them? Like, what would you, like, we've acknowledged that you're better at...
In music? Of course.
Hold on one sec. So we acknowledge you're better at handling the information space than maybe us on average and other people we know.
I wouldn't say the word better.
You're sure. Give me a word.
No, I'm thoughtful about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You're managing
thoughtful
the
about my
information
inputs.
Space thoughtfully.
Yeah.
So can you break that part down? Like, what are the parts that you're being thoughtful about? Bit by bit, what are all those component parts?
Mm-hmm. Well, it all starts
Happy
with
birthday, motherfucker.
It all starts with sleep.
All right,
that's priority number one. Priority number one, and I wouldn't say that last year. I wouldn't say that 5 years ago. I don't think I ever would have said that. But now it's number one. It sets up everything. It sets up the mood of the day. Like, there's no way that I can have a serious conversation about anything before 8 a.m. if one, ever, but two, if I don't have at least 8 or 9 hours of sleep. And this is just how it's been most of my life. Then recently on Huberman Labs, finding out that if you've had one or more concussions in your life, which I've had at least 2, there might have been a third at some point in football practice and games. Enough studies, 6+ studies have shown that those people sleep on their sides and need at least 8 hours. They actually do not function well on less than 8 hours. And if I don't get 8,
it's higher than average.
It's higher than average if you've had any sort of traumatic brain injury, TBI.
Wow.
And I've had quite a bit.
That has to do with inflammation.
Yeah. Exactly. And if you can't sleep on your sides, you need to elevate your feet with a pillow at the other end is the other remedy. That's what he does because he doesn't sleep well on his side. I am a great side sleeper. And so sleep's number one, but it's not just getting good sleep. It's understanding how sleep affects my well-being and my way of walking the earth with the people that are closest and far from me. So everyone from intimate relationship to JC Dirks, who I've never met in person, but we've exchanged dialogue on Instagram about engineering and life, right? So that's the spectrum, right? Then it's the input of let's just go through the day, right? Let's just start. Exactly. I don't really know how to do this on a really high, on a high level. It's just, well, what's the first thing in your body? Water.
Yeah.
Like without water, Nico and I have a joke. It's like, well, we got to make the bed. You gotta, whoa, it's getting really loud in here from the rain.
Water.
So my loft has no insulation, everyone. So when it rains, it pours and it's very loud.
Can we put our mics up so people can hear this? It's kind of dope.
It's wild.
It's kind of nice.
Do you hear it?
Yeah, it's romantic.
Yeah, I can hear it, but it's kind of nice in the background.
So anyway, you make the bed. You should have at least 8 ounces of water before consuming anything else in your body. Really, within 10 or 20 minutes. I cheat on that, and I'll have an espresso within 5 minutes of having that glass of water, right? But that's starting your metabolism, I guess, right? That's starting the body up and saying something is affecting something, and we're going to start it with water because that's what we're made of. Then after that, mindfulness, jump into a 10-minute practice. Something easy, something that makes a habit form that is, again, relatively easy. If you can sit longer, that's great. I've noticed that 10 is enough for me to get started, so I do 10. But if you could do an hour every morning, that sounds fucking ideal.
That's epic.
I don't have it.
Yeah.
I did order a rowing machine for my back. So I'm thinking about the next step post this would be the mornings I'm not playing tennis. I'm going to put a podcast on and do an hour on the row and get zone 2 cardio like every day, every other day. Amazing. With a podcast on. So I'm going to add that. I'm going to start implementing that. Then after that, email reading and seeing what the day brings. And where I wanted to start with this was saying how I don't block out the entire day back to back. There has to be points of break. And that's kind of a key element, is the points of break are hardwired into the day, into the week, into the schedule. That leaves room for, I talked to Dale Becker about this a lot, that kind of leaves room for, all right, if it's a work thing, like a same day turnaround can fit in that slot. A quick coffee with your girlfriend can sit in that slot. A friend's in the neighborhood wants to do something. Flux time. And it can be used for anything. Read a book, listen to a start of another podcast, listen to our podcast, see how we can get better, right? That's just flux time. Then we get into work. Then we mix, and we mix hardcore for maybe 3 to 4 hours, maybe 8 hours with a break in between. And now learning similarly on a bunch of podcasts with scientists and doctors speaking about this, the time it takes for our brain to jump back to the task that we were at when we see a different task at hand, like a screen. It could be anything from Instagram, an email, phone call, any sort of other stimuli will take us out of the thing that we were in. So it could be a positive thing, it could be a really negative thing. You can have an emotional trigger hit from something you see on Instagram that completely disconnects you to what you were doing in the task just prior, 5 seconds prior. So I'm trying to manage when I check certain things, certain platforms, certain connectivity, when I'm responding to people throughout the day. This is something I don't actually think I'm good at just yet, and something I'm working towards. Because I do like to look on Instagram. I do like to see dope furniture pieces that are being released, and cool art and cool fashion and design, and who's releasing what record. And I love all these things. I love the access. So to me, the perk of all of this is the having access to cool shit. That's what the internet is for in my life. It's not necessarily always for talking to people and connecting. It's mostly to see what cool shit's out there. So that's another part. You curate your feed. You curate like the designers that you like, and the home stores that you like, and designers that you like, and all this stuff. So I don't know. That's probably, I don't know what else to say.
The food input.
Oh, sorry. I didn't even have the nutrition part. Oh, my God.
That's an interesting piece,
yeah,
too.
My God. Well, it changes.
There's some basic principles.
Yeah. No carbs 5 days a week. 2 meals a day, max. Maybe some pistachios in the middle as a snack, or a smoked fish here and there. A smoked mussel tin with some smoked Malden salt and a squeeze of lemon juice. Don't laugh at me. That shit's delicious. That is like...
It was poetic what you just said. A smoked mussel tin.
A smoked mussel tin, a squeeze of lemon juice, and smoked Malden salt. That's a snack.
That's got to be from a Downton Abbey
that is
episode.
That is an affordable snack that is highly nutritious and good brain food. Then dinner comes around, and dinner to me, similar to Rory, if I could have a braise cooking all day up here and have the smell going, so by the time you eat, that's how you have profound dinner experiences. Yeah, I've had bougie restaurant experiences that have changed my life too. So I kind of don't fully relate to that moment, but I also haven't had that exact experience in Italy, and I've had similar kind of versions of that in other places, but not at that level. And I dream of those experiences. That's what's going on in my brain when I think about traveling and what else to do with life outside of making records, is to have those shared experiences and a wheel of fresh aged pecorino with walnut liqueur. It sounds great.
So what is this sort of control of the nutritional input do for you? Like, how does that fit into the whole thing?
It just changes everything, right? Like, I'm just gut microbiome, just sensitive. Something goes into the gut and I feel a change. It could be positive, it could be negative. We want to maximize positive change when fuel, sorry, I misspoke, but it's the same thing. Food is fuel, and when food goes into the gut, we want it to energize us. If you overeat, no matter if it's good food or bad food, so much energy and blood is rushing to the gut, causing exhaustion to other parts, and we're going to be sleepy, right? So there's an amount of food. There's got to be a perfect amount of calorie that everyone is different at. But for me, like, I'm sure there's a number I shouldn't go over because I'll just get too tired no matter what we're eating, right? So like, you and I, specifically Spider and I, are on a mostly ketogenic diet. Michael too. But if you're going to have a cheat day, then it just like keep it more calorie restricted, right? So you're just not overeating and getting exhausted. So that's something I think about a lot because I want to function at a plateaued level of energy throughout the day. I don't really want spikes. There's a way to use the spike at the end of the day if you're trying to get, through a project. Like maybe it's time to have some dark chocolate or have some rice or have some of that carbohydrate energy to get you through that second wind shit. Exactly. Get through a bout of end of night energy. As I guess.
What were things like for you before you transitioned to this sort of diet?
Tired all day. I don't know. Good question. It's been a long time, dude. We've been doing this for like 6 years now.
Yeah.
We've been on this diet for like 6 years. I don't know. Just not as connected to what I was aiming to do. I wasn't as pointed in the right direction. I wasn't as fast. Like I'm faster at record making because of this. I have more focused perspective for longer, right? So there's a like I say, hardcore for 3 hours. It's like 2 90-minute ultradian cycles. But that's real, right? Like knowing that you have 90 minutes and then your brain isn't really worth anything for like the next 20 minutes after that. If you've gone hardcore for 90, you need to stop for 20. It's like if you're in a conversation with someone, you might want to actually, we went over this in the desert a little bit, that I get kind of frustrated after 30 minutes. That's like my threshold of tolerance.
Philosophical sort of discourse.
Well, either philosophical discourse or
a specific topic.
Yeah.
Parsing a single topic.
Yeah. Where I would like to go a full 90 minutes on these things and have the ability to do that. But 30 minutes to me is kind of the cutoff. So that might be different depending on the diet of the day.
Could be.
Irritability factor depending on like what's in the gut. I don't know.
I mean, I noticed these changes in you, and obviously, I'm asking you questions I know the answers to because we lived this together.
I know. I don't feel like I'm answering them well enough.
But I remember, like you had like gut issues and like the afternoon after lunch dip, like just feeling like you need.
Gut issues. I was just bloated all the time with cramps in the right side of me since I was a kid. Like I didn't know any other way. I just thought that was normal.
Distracting when you're trying to feel a record.
Yeah. Exactly.
From the outside, John, you're answering them very well, but what I think you're feeling is that the answers aren't spectacular. You're not saying buy this pill and everything will be okay. They're not like athletic greens is the answer. It's a whole system and you've got to sort of integrate everything. And so it feels a little underwhelming when you say what worked for you. So you're sort of feeling like it's missing razzmatazz, but that's just the fact of it. It's what has worked for you is all of these things in concert.
At a systems level, yeah.
I also think that I guess I'm what you would refer to as an HSP, a highly sensitive person. I think a lot of people can kind of bull their way through life a little bit longer. I started having adverse effects to alcohol when I was in my mid-20s. I never was a big drinker, and that's why I can only really drink dry white wines and champagne. It was really
and sherry,
and some sherries. Some sherries. It's no added sugar, no skin contact on the grape, and it's really easy to, or easier. It's not really easy. It still gives the effect after a couple of classes. But I had to learn that. I had to understand my body, and I think that's what it is. It's one of those things you can't unlearn once you know. So once I realized how sensitive I was to certain things, and it's the same thing with sound too. I mean, on Live with Matt Rad 2 weeks ago, there was a whole moment that he had a fun time with my sensitivity to fire trucks, and it's my first memory is being outside at a parade, a Christmas Day parade outside my house in a stroller, and the fire truck going by, and that damn 3K, like just can't fucking hang, you know?
Just
fireworks. The sensitivities are real, and why would it be any different in my, intestinal tract than in my ears? I just so I have to manage the inputs in all sources. In all senses.
And what about information? Because I know you you make time for books and podcasts and YouTube. Yeah. Like, what's the framework for your information diet?
Are we interviewing the birthday boy right now?
I mean, we're on the topic and just drawing it out because it's. I mean, this is our everyday lives are hard to explain.
No, I know. I love this because you said it. You said so much of it earlier, like the ability to discern reason. You can't agree with everything. There's just no way. If you're in a complete echo chamber of agreeance, there's got to be something wrong with input, with some of the input, some of the walls there. But I don't like prescription. When someone says this is it, it's like, no, I bet it's not, right? So that's the way that I discern information. If someone says it's a hard this is the story, it's just probably not it, right? So like whatever sources get there. I mean, I've been doing my best to. It's so hard. Trying to read scientific papers for like the last decade.
Jesus,
like I don't understand the jargon, but I'll read the abstract and I'll read a bit of the method and I'll read the conclusion, right? Like I'll do that. So I've been doing that for forever, at least since I cared about medicine and what supplements I want to take and the effects that caffeine can have on you and everyday things. So this is just like a baseline for me. Is if someone says you should try that, I go to my phone or to my computer and I read about it for as long as I can, or I listen to people talk about it and we share that information within our group threads and texts. And Spider and I have been doing that for a decade now of like, oh, so-and-so just said, actually, if you use this kind of oil when you're cooking, it's actually a little bit better. It's still a saturated fat, but it's a different, like sharing better versions of fats. And when you start keto, it's like a lot. All of a sudden it's in Erewhon and in Whole Foods. And it's like, this still has 13 grams of net carbs. It's not really a ketogenic source of energy at all. So like really going deep into things is kind of the way, right? So, there's podcasts. That seems to be the easiest way to take in. I kind of hate, if I could say one thing that I hate about myself, like I hate saying that I hate things about myself because there's no utility to it. I really just don't retain when I read. Like I'll retain like one or two bits of the book. And some of them are key, like the 7.5 Lessons About the Brain from Lisa Feldman Barrett. That is so digestible. I actually like remember more from that book than most books I've ever read, just because of how digestible it is. How I read one chapter after a day for a week. Like there's practice there, so I know I'm capable of it, but I just fucking hate it. So I'm an auditory learner. Clearly, I'm a musician and mix engineer. So just pop podcasts on and listen to a lot of different people talking about the same topic. That's my favorite thing to do. It's like, oh, did you catch so-and-so? They're talking about it this way. Did you catch so-and-so? Brought on, Annika Harris talking about consciousness is different than Sam Harris, right? And they live together, they're married, but they have different perspectives on things and they align on certain things.
It's different to Donald Hoffman, different to all the people talking about it.
So, and David Wyeth on the newest one. My fucking God, that dude is brilliant. He's just so poetic, right? And like just...
That was very powerful
this
week. Yeah.
Just distilling down aloneness, the need for it and the positives and negatives of it, and just I just have a thing about like I just really need to be alone sometimes. Like alone. And like talking about the noise that comes out, in music and everywhere. There's so much information around. I'm really not good at it. And like I put on a front to try to be good at it because like I want to get back to the community here. I want to have good, long-lasting relationships with people that are close to me. I want to connect more with my family because I live 3,000 miles away. I'm just not that good at it. And I don't think I have to be. So if I do anything for myself at 35 is to be a little bit more forgiving on like, I need a loan. And if people can't handle that, like, I'm so sorry.
You got to put on your oxygen mask first.
Yeah.
If you're going to be any use to anybody else.
Exactly.
And I think really
it's not my best when I'm exhausted all from communication and work. It's not even, it's not one or the other. I actually don't feel overworked and I don't feel over communicative. I feel like it's both together and I have to figure out how to find space. But that's like that's why I don't feel celebratory. Like to start back from the beginning of the episode when Rory was like, oh, well, why don't you feel celebratory? Because I haven't figured that part out yet. And I haven't figured a lot out, you know, but like that's something that's really important to me when we're talking about, you know, you're kind of interviewing me here on the sources of input. I gotta be good with boredom and just be good alone. And I am, and I just don't get enough time for it. So that's something I got to figure out.
There's a voice in you when you're alone. Is there a voice saying, oh, you should talk to your parents more. You should do this thing. Like,
no. And I'm alone. The voice is not there. It's great. That went away when I was, I don't know who's going to listen to this because I don't want my parents to know certain things. This is a little, honestly, no, seriously, just about certain experiences. But I had a really profound experience at 19 that I wished black in my head. I wished to close my eyes and see nothing because there was just such erratic shapes and colors and it was so loud. And I was on a beach. I was on a hill on a cliff on the North Shore of Long Island. And I thought to myself, I think the best way to do this is to scream at the top of my lungs, like as loud as I could. Like you do it into a pillow if like you're home or something, but just like out in the open, just fucking roar. And I did. I closed my eyes and it was black. And let's jump ahead. Was that 24 years? No, 14 years. I can't do math right now. I meditate right at this end of the table here. And every time I close my eyes, and Sam Harris on the Waking Up app says, now close your eyes and you'll notice that your visual field still exists. There's still color. There's still this. And I'm like, fuck no, there's not. This shit's black. There's nothing there. So when I actually get to that place, I swear to God, I think it every time he does it, I laugh to myself. I'm like, there's nothing. There's no glistening. It's just black. And I willed it and I love it. And I can get there sometimes. Haven't gone there in a while besides in meditation for 10 minutes. So, but I can get there and I love it there. And that's alone. That's quiet and love of self in with yourself only. And I don't know, I feel lucky to be that good with that. But I don't have it right now. And I want it at 35 years old.
I mean, we've talked about this, that this is the sensitivity piece, that other people are loud. Their emotions and their needs and their feelings and their day and their records and their tone of their emails and text messages. It's loud. It's a lot. Yeah.
Tone is everything.
Yeah. So, you know, and it's not a value judgment or a statement on who they are that you need time alone. It's just
it has nothing to do with anybody else.
Exactly. It's just the machine that is you needs downtime to sort of be the best version of you. You know. I think that's
why I don't feel celebratory.
Because you haven't achieved it?
Yeah.
I mean, you have before. You just haven't achieved it.
What is it that you haven't achieved exactly?
The willingness to express my need for extended periods of alone.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there's a lot of commitments, right? Like we have this, and I have work and relationship and physical activity and there's a lot, and it's all good things, right? So it's all like, you know, thank God. You know, this is also mixed with a pandemic, right? There's like less of a way to just spontaneously like go to New York and go, you know, reset or something like that to go see family or whatever. So I don't know if there's a specific answer to your question. I just think it's this. If it's on a committed day, just being okay with no, right? So on a committed day, saying, it's just not today. Sorry, like we'll get to it next week.
Yeah, carving out time for what you need.
But we talked about this. We talked about on an earlier episode of like, look, commitments are commitments, and we should not falter on commitments. Like it's especially like this podcast, right? Like this is a thing, and but I'm looking for more freedom. And that's the word that comes to mind. Mm-hmm. I was meditating on last night before I went to bed. Is like, I actually don't feel very free right now. I feel like the freest I've ever felt, and I don't feel free at the same time because there's just a lot in demand. And look, that's what people want to be in demand, and like I can take it from a good perspective too, because work is fantastic, and I love that part of it too. But I don't know, because then there's this an imposter syndrome that steps in. That's like, well, then if you can't be your best self to everybody, then are you ever doing the right thing? Because you know what you're capable of, or maybe you don't. But
yeah, right.
I
Doesn't
do.
that define what the best thing is?
Yeah,
is the structure and the system that helps you to produces your best self.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what defines what the good choices are. Mm-hmm. And I think like the freedom is the result of structure and commitment in a way, because it's saying I'm going to commit over here, and that means I'm not committed here. Making commitments to yourself about spans of time where, like, if you look at the annual calendar, you know, it's like, oh, I have my weekly time, I have my monthly time, then maybe a bigger block, and quarterly I have this big chunk of time that's just like, I don't need to make plans, I don't do whatever, but there's a wall on either side of this time and nobody gets it but me.
Mm-hmm. But how does that work in freelance life?
I don't know. I mean, that's...
Just thinking about from a work front, you know, how does that work?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just time off, you know?
I mean, a key question is, how do you compete with people who are willing to throw themselves under the bus?
Mm-hmm. By doing something other people can't do.
Right.
Yeah. You know, and
by having a unique voice.
Well,
you know?
let me try.
I'm not speaking to John. I'm speaking to the audience.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, let me say another thing here. So we talk about, we try things out and sometimes they don't work, right? So, and then we talk about what we've been trying out and we get excited about it. It's like a new plugin or new tool. It's like, oh, I don't compress. All of a sudden I'm compressing again. You know, like all of a sudden I'm like hardcore compressor guy and I'm not practicing what I preach. Well, I preached it for, you know, a year, and I did a year without, and then I learned its capabilities and what it needs to be, right? This is a bad example. I don't really compress still, but whatever. I tried planning. Like we've talked about this, like sliding the calendar. I've tried it. I'm good at it. It's not for me. So I did it for like 5 years. Since I came here, I feel like I've been planning, like everything has been planned. It feels like that, or I've been working towards it. And now that I got there, I'm like, kind of missed the moderately aloof and flexible feeling that I had. I feel like it's a little immature, right? Like I think that takes me a step back in my reliability and maturity, but there's got to be a balance there and a kind of tug of war of like, I'm just going to work for 14 hours today, 18 hours today, and then like not talk to anybody for another day because I'm exhausted. And like I used to just do that, right? And like now you kind of can't do that.
That wouldn't work if the next day is a Wednesday. That doesn't work.
It doesn't work if the next day is a Wednesday. But it could work if the next day was a Wednesday if I was like, yo guys, you want to do it on Thursday? And then like Rory's like, nah, we got karate class with Ellie on like, you know, on Thursday night. Like, oh fuck, other people. You know, and so obviously this is not like this can't just be my world. Yeah. It's not possible. But I do think, and this is what I'm kind of getting at here, is I do think I'm better for everyone if I get a little bit of that, or more than I'm getting right now.
I don't think that tension will go away ever. I think and I'm sort of obsessed at the moment, you know, about the idea of tension, that there are certain things just will always be in tension for your whole life, and sometimes you'll be further one way, sometimes further the other, but you'll never resolve it. There's always it's always two things
and cooperation are always in tension.
And what you need and what the people around you need will always be in tension. You know, I need more time alone, and my kids need more of their dad.
Yeah,
So,
right.
That's it. Those two things are going to be in tension forever. And the way, the trick to maximizing both is to be more present all the time. If I can be more in myself and not in the last email I read or in my phone, then my time alone can be more me, and my time with them can be more with them. So there's lots of ways I can turn up the quality of my alone time and my time with the kids. I don't have to spend less time with them or less time on myself, You do much better on that stuff than I do, in terms of how you use your time. But I think cutting yourself some slack and just saying, hey, these tensions will never go away. And at different times of your life, they're going to be even harder, and other times you'll find a flow. But there's no hill you're going to crest where this is solved. And I think much like you say, when people on a podcast say it's just this way, that's when you sort of say, I don't think so, bro.
Yeah. And it might be that way. It might, but it's just that the language
for
is
a minute.
too certain. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Nothing's certain. Like,
you spend time around older people, wiser people, and a lot of what they're saying is just make peace with the stuff that's going to, like this. It's going to be in tension forever. They'll shrug their shoulders and just like, they're,
I guess
I wanted to give up trying.
I wanted to go there a little bit because, you're like, oh, you guys are, John, you're good at, deciding what inputs you have and curating that. I'm like, Sometimes I feel the pressure to listen to the podcast because you all send me the podcast. Sometimes I just want to sit on the couch or go for a walk and do nothing and be quiet.
Yeah.
Not that the sound of downtown LA is of any more interest than than of someone's voice.
Yeah.
If maybe I was in Pasadena in the mountains or something going for a hike, that would be a different auditory experience and much more satisfying. But I just want to shut off, and I feel like it doesn't get to happen. And I'd like to figure that out. That's what I mean.
Yeah, that's the interesting piece. It's like, what is it that's not turning off?
Yeah, that's the part I wanted to ask about. So you mentioned this term being your best self, and that's like obviously like a very loaded term. It could mean anything.
An ideal.
Sorry, you keep going. Sorry.
Yeah,
but yeah, so best self to me is kind of the potential argument as well. It's like, well, what is really your best self? Because if you're tired one day from a week of work, then your best self is the tired version of you that maybe it's sort of like where the values come into play, where it's like, well, what do I...
No. Like it is in the context of free will, and like it couldn't be any other way than I am, so I have to be the best version of myself. But that's not the way reality works. There's like me cooking you, Michael, a birthday dinner and hosting 14 people, and everyone is having a great time. Everyone's cared for. There's never a glass empty of champagne. There's just always something good happening. You had a fucking piñata, whatever is going on here, is way better than you coming back the next day, me in a terrible mood, and me kicking you in the balls.
Sure.
That is not my best self. That version of me is not my best, because we have on a scale of experience with me that I can be better than that moment. So you can't say but you and your worst version is your best because it's happening.
A discussion about acceptance, because
those are different concepts. John's referring to best self as a kind of ideal to live up to. It's an aim, an orientation, whereas the term best, the word best is sort of meaning different things in both of those situations, where there's a sort of ideal that you have of yourself. That's sort of what you expect of yourself, a sort of image that you hold in your mind, that you orient yourself toward. You design your decisions are made sort of held up against that ideal. Like the motivation for the decisions to go to bed. Should I stay up? No, I should go to bed. You're sort of trying to live up to this ideal. The acceptance piece of looking at the past and saying, well, I did my best, accepting who I was at the time. That's the best I could do at the time with the information I had, who I was, and the way my atoms were arranged. That acceptance. So those are two different pieces.
But those
are two different concepts.
That's not the best self. That's the self. That's the only self.
Well, yeah, best is irrelevant is in that context.
Well, right. Then I guess what I mean is it shouldn't be used then.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, that's not your best self, because your best has to be compared to the worst. That's why
the best self is always going to be in the past. Like,
no,
there's no guarantee that you're going to be a better self. And like, I'm losing my train of thought here. Go on.
It doesn't have to be in the past. No, it doesn't have to be in the past.
Yeah.
It should be in the present. It can be in the present, so then it should be.
Yeah,
it can be so.
But sometimes it can't be. Like some days it can't be. And what I'm saying about the acceptance piece is not accepting the past. It's about accepting you as the self in the moment.
Yes.
Not labeling it best or worse or somewhere in
This
between.
is not what I'm talking about. I completely agree with you, actually. Now I know what you're saying. What I'm saying is, in that moment of not your best self, not the expectation you hold yourself to, as Spider has clarified, that's going to affect other people differently, and they can choose to be affected by it or not, and you can't choose how you affect other people.
Right.
It's just not possible. So therefore, in those moments is the time that I, let's speak for myself, want the freedom to not interact or do the podcast or go out to dinner or something, because that's not going to be good. It's just not, there's nothing good that's going to come from that when it could be better tomorrow after a recharge.
Sure, but then it's only best self or no self.
No,
is present.
no,
You're
no,
saying
no,
like,
no,
I
not.
don't want to show up unless I'm my best self. That's what I just heard. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I just
kind of.
Yeah.
But what do you mean no self?
Well, not
or not presenting yourself.
I'm hearing it a
not
little
showing
different.
up.
I'm hearing it differently. I feel like there's the idea of setting a very high bar for yourself socially. So, there's hosting Michael's dinner, and then there's cooking for 14 with champagne in the glasses all the time. That's a very high bar. And there being your best, if your best self costs, and I'm not implying that was cost you, or that was
It does.
that sort of left you empty. But yeah, but say everyone's going to dinner and you don't feel it that night. You're like, I'm tired, I'm cranky, I'm restless, I am whatever, right? And you're thinking about you've set a high bar for yourself to go to dinner and be bright and shiny, John. And I suppose another way of coming at it is that I want to be around, we've teased out over different episodes here what friendship is. I want to be around people who can accept me when I'm not at my brightest and shiniest. I know lots of people in my life for whom, when I fall below a certain level of bright and shiny, they're not that interested. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, they want, whatever they want from me. But real friends are there for you when you're tired, or when it's like, hey guys, remember recently we maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I came down and we set up podcast, and I was quiet, and I sat down at the table with you guys, and I was like, guys, I'm fucking cranky. Like I'm in a shitty mood. Anything you say that I react to, it has nothing to do with you.
Yes.
Like, this is all me. Tonight, I'm bringing weird energy. I'm going to try and moderate it, but basically, ignore me if I'm being a cranky motherfucker, if I pick an argument over something stupid.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, the privilege, the luxury of having friends that I can do that with. Yeah. Friends who will accept me when I'm not bright and shiny, when I'm not my best self. Right. But they still love me, right? And that's there's two sides to it, I think. One is carving out the space for you to have the time, and the other is to demand from your friendships and your family and your partners that they give you the space to be less than perfect. And then on top of that you are okay with that. Yeah. You don't have to be the Wunderchef for us to love you. You don't have to keep all our glasses full all the time. I know how to pour wine. I can pour wine, Spider knows how to load a dishwasher, and I want I want that for my friends, and I need that from my friends. Spider comes over Saturday night for dinner. It's like some weeks I'm not all that when he arrives, and I'm not going to crank up a fake persona. It's like I'm tired, and we ease into dinner, and the conversation usually drags me in, and the girls get me excited, and before I know it, I'm healed by a great meal with a friend, right? But I don't have to be something I'm not, and that's not true around everyone. There are other people where you do have to kind of pretend because they're not comfortable if you don't.
The professionalism can be toxic sometimes in that way, because you just stay in professional mode, especially because we're like live work type people. Well, I've noticed that in my life, like being a professional would just bleed into everything else I did.
There's a layer above this for, I think, particularly for John and I, which is something we share, which is sometimes it's easier to compromise yourself than to deal with the loud response to you being authentic, right? Yeah. So when you're whatever you are on that day and the other person's reaction to it is so fucking intense for you, of course it's not intense. They just raised their eyebrow. That's all they did. Or they glanced at the door. But in your mind, it's like very loud. So we tend to sort of, I'm not speaking for you, John, but I know for me, I tend to sort of, I'm hunting for that balance, Yeah. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does a lot. Yeah. I keep going through this sort of, I have a commitment approaching. I'm not feeling it. How do I weigh the pros and cons of breaking the commitment or just sort of powering through it? Like, what are the things that go through my mind? Like when I think about, like, sometimes I get off of the bike on Saturday and like, I just don't know that I have the energy to like come over and play with the girls and like for, for dinner and like, I'm like, oh man, maybe I just like need to rest tonight or whatever. But then I remember like what I get from you and Sydney and how I feel like when I'm there and like how I remember it for a whole week and then the next Saturday, so there's this like the benefits of a cooperative framework need to be balanced with the benefits of independence. And it may be that for some of us those benefits aren't that clear. Like, what do we get from our alone time? Like, what do we really gain there? And what do we gain from these social interactions, especially when the social interactions are impure or complicated or not so healthy? You know what I mean? And then it all becomes like a bit hard to assess. So, if it's hard to understand the benefits of your associations, maybe they should be reevaluated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
that's the real heart of it, is the commitments you make, to clients or to friends or whatever. It's, usually the work to be done is sort of reevaluating the bigger commitments,
Man, I envy the flakes. They all got it on lock. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but it's isolating.
No, I know. I'm just messing.
You can't go to the moon that way.
Yeah, exactly.
It's isolating.
I like Rory's point about, and that's the point I was trying to make, and maybe it wasn't clear enough. But I think, having this ideal version of what you're capable of and what you've achieved before is both a blessing and a curse in a way, because when you're not there, because of whatever reason it may be, maybe you just want to have an off day mentally.
It's just that.
Then there's this pressure, this dissonance between like what you're capable of and what's happening. And so like, I totally agree. I mean, I think seeing all the whole spectrum of a person is getting to know that person better. Only seeing the best version of you. Like today,
of course not. Yeah.
Like even today, ordering food for the group, I never do that. So I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. I'm like, but it's
know how to order food.
I know how to order food for people, but it's like
that's how we ended up with wings.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. You did great. It was delicious.
It worked out. But what I'm saying is like, in a way, you being your best self, then and feeling like you need to, there's a cost on the other side where it's like, I'm not ordering for people now. This is like a new thing. Now I got to figure this thing out and whatever. So there's opportunity for you to not be your best self per se.
Yeah.
Not show
But I was
up.
my best self to the client today because I got a mix done.
Right.
And I cared a lot about it.
But that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't hurt anything for you to not be your best self to the Convos team by ordering dinner.
Yeah, sure.
If that's
I know what you
one
mean.
way to quantify that.
Yeah.
There, you know, so I just think it's okay to not be the best John
Well, that's
Costello.
self-love.
Look,
I mean, that's what love is.
I know it's
complete acceptance.
I know it's okay. I know it's okay.
Well, yeah, it's not about it's about kind of training yourself to realize it in those moments where like it doesn't feel.
So you don't
want
to let people down. I don't want to let people down. I hate letting people down. Anybody that I just don't like it. I really I guess I think I just take responsibility really seriously. Always have, and I just kind of crave the times where I was just, you know, locked in the studio for a month. No one saw my face. And then like out popped a record, you know, it's cool. I like that. That'll like probably never happen again. That's all.
I don't know. It sounds like the grass is greener, but like I've been doing that for this week, and it's not like the coolest shit. Like, I'm happy to be here. You know?
I'm happy to be here. No. I know. I had a great birthday weekend in Santa Barbara. It was lovely. Like I love. No. Of course, that's not what I mean. But for people that are listening, and I'm sure like there's people on both sides, right, that are locked in the studio wishing that they weren't, and people that are not working as much because they have other commitments and they haven't been able to prioritize or balance the right things. And you know, you kind of starting to interview me on my inputs made me want to tell the world that I just don't have anything figured out, and I'm still like I'm working so much, and I'm working on things that I really want to be working on. I'm having such a good time, and I'm so excited for 35, and life is pretty damn good. This part really gets me.
Yeah.
This thing really gets me.
No, I know. I feel it. I mean, I've known you forever. I know, like, you're continually always the best version of John Costello when we show up. It's like there's some new thing and this thing and that thing and the food and the way you're served.
Many expressions.
Yeah, there's many expressions of the best self. But there's also like there's times where when we were working on PMC early days and you got into the bike accident, and you were not your best self, right? I even had to bring food. This freaking guy doesn't know how to order food. He's bringing food over. You know? But it was great, dude. It was still John Costello that was there.
Yeah. And it was an opportunity for us to mean something more to you.
Right.
You know, the car accident, the bike accident.
I was going to say, what do you mean? That's an opportunity?
Well, yeah, whenever
you sat with me for 3 months watching Downton Abbey in its entirety after I broke my sternum.
Some of my favorite memories.
Same. Yeah. No, I know.
You were on drugs and you were watching Downton Abbey. It was fucking perfect.
Yeah, sounds amazing.
It was pretty good. Besides the unbearable pain that the Percocet almost helped with. Can we say that on here? Percocets.
Yeah.
Can the title be on drugs and watching Downton Abbey?
Sure.
That sounds like heaven to me.
It was. It was great. It was great.
That and the Tour de France. We
did Tour de France. Were you making like bacon and eggs and just putting it on plates and avocado, like super
there was
keto?
There was
Dune coming.
There was good food coming. We kept the food coming. But no, like when people are not at their best, that's the opportunity for other people to feel meaningfully useful, to make meaningful contributions to other people. So to never show that vulnerability is to keep people out. It's to limit the depth of your relationships. And it limits the the ability for people to love at more fulfilling levels. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's hard. It's been hard for me. I mean, I had a point where I had to turn to my family for help. Like I was just so depressed and unproductive, and work wasn't going well, and I was just sleeping on Tony's sofa in the studio, and like I was like, I need a minute. I just need to come home and I need a minute. It was not easy. Yeah. I stuck it out here in LA for way too long before I did that.
Yeah.
You know, and I regret that. But, you know, I think these moments of weakness, I see them more as opportunities now. I don't see them as like cracks in my facade. You know.
Well, the reality is they're coming for almost everyone. A couple of people will coast through life, but most people will be humbled at various points. And when you get a few years on you it happens a few more times. You've had your car crashes and whatever, John, and there's other stuff, you know, in Spider's history and mine and Michael's, and you know, it doesn't go away, and you see you can't engineer it out of your life, and you can't protect yourself from it, even with the dopest insurance policies. Shit happens, you know. And it is an opportunity for other people to really love you, you know. Not you, to love one, to be there to build better friendships.
This is my birthday. This is all about me.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to. I don't want to make it sound like I'm lecturing you that you should let us love you, but you know,
but you should let us love you.
Yeah. Michael can say it.
Yeah, I'll say it. It's your birthday.
I know you did.
This is the roast.
And this is the
best you're gonna get. This is the best we got. It's a 2-hour therapy session. Slash roast.
We're hitting 2.5 hours. Roast. I need a 30-second roast. Come on.
That was it.
Let me love you, baby.
Let's go out. Love you.
Do I have to pull out that llama meme? That says,
oh my God, that's so good.
Turn up the kick drum.
Turn up the kick drum. Oh my God. Now I get asked to turn the kick drum down. I figured out gain structure that now the kick can just be so loud. There's never a kick up note.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, I see what you did. Can you just lower the kick?
Well, you've accomplished that. You've eliminated kick up notes.
Yeah, and there's no more kick up notes. Yeah.
That's an accomplishment worth celebrating.
Damn, you really got nothing.
Roast? Are you kidding?
We already said we don't do roasts.
Well, I'm not doing roasts.
We've discussed it. We don't do roasts.
Those are professionals.
I'm afraid of my power.
I'm afraid.
I'm afraid of my power too.
All right.
Fucking tap the darkness, man. I'm like a novice with the darkness. I'm not going to be twirling swords up in here.
Yeah. We've been watching WandaVision. We know what happens when you're a witch with magical powers. We know what damage you can cause, okay?
The Scarlet Witch, dude. I don't want to unleash the Scarlet Witch, man.
Yeah, you read too many spells. Shit can get crazy. I'm just not going there tonight.
All right. I appreciate the...
How about this? When Roast Battle starts up again, we'll go.
Okay.
And we'll watch professionals fucking do it.
Okay.
And maybe we'll get inspired to do you the year after.
The year after.
Yeah.
I mean, like everything, we're trying to do diligence here. We're doing our research. We need to really understand the roasting scene before we just enter into it as novices.
I thought you were talking about tonight. We need to understand John's weaknesses before we consecrate.
Well,
we do.
I think you understand those.
No. I need to do a more in-depth study of roasting and John Castelli's weaknesses before they can converge
into the...
Look, I gave you a week heads up and you didn't do your homework.
Not enough.
I had previous commitments.
There's no room in my calendar for roasting.
All right. Well, I had a good time with you guys.
Yeah, it was a little intense, but this is where we're at on a given week, and there's a lot to celebrate in your life, dude, and I'm glad to be one of this group of four with you and value you a lot. I can't wait to raise a glass with you at the weekend.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Peace out, guys.
Happy birthday, man.
Thanks.
Happy birthday, John. Till next week.
Till next time.
Conversations is produced and mixed by Dylan Seals. The Conversations theme was performed and recorded by the Hazelrick Brothers.